Well, I have the honor of being the person standing between you and your refreshments at the end of the evening. When you jump ahead here on the slides, let me get to a starting point. I'm using a packet that we did during our initial float and also an updated packet that we just did in the current visit to our institutional investors. ClearStar is a company that provides a technology and an infrastructure to help you know who people are. In other words, who they are, what they say they are. Some people call it background checking. We call it verification of credentials or verification of the individual. So how do you know I am who I say I am? I can prove that I am who I am, but what is it about me that gives me value and how is that represented? ClearStar initially started actually in 1999, that was 20 years, 1995, excuse me, that was 20 years ago. So I actually have a year per minute if I want to tell you this story. I can do it that quickly. And we provided technology to companies that did background checking, just the technologies. So anybody who wanted to process an individual for hiring or employment, we provided the technology to the companies that provided that service. We did it in a white label platform. And we did it for some of the larger companies that are doing it today. Kroll, for a number of years, ran on our platform in a client-server environment. As time progressed, we moved to a transactional model, a model that supported a cloud-based solution that we could address the employer's needs. Now, the key in the hiring process is speed and removing the pain. When an employer needs to hire somebody, it's real-time hiring. They need to do it quickly. So it's not just about the services that they provide, but it's about removing the bottlenecks. You have to go in with the technology and find out where the pain points are in the hiring process and build bridges or integrations to those pain points that make the hiring streamlined. And that's what ClearStar really is all about, is finding a solution for the employer that expedites the hiring process. In the entire hiring process, there's only one point where the employer loses control, and that's in the background screening. And the reason is that he has to rely on a trusted third party to verify the information. The employer just can't go out and seek the information because in many cases the information isn't correct. They need they need a trusted third party that can collect that information in a way, disseminate that information, and construct a hiring profile that allows them to make a quick decision. ClearStar provides that task and does it in several different areas. In areas of identity verification, in areas of education, employment history, criminal history, anything that makes up the identity, or excuse me, thank you. I was doing pretty well up to that point, right? Of the individual. By providing these services and putting them on a platform that can give the employer a decision-making tool, we can streamline the hiring process. Was that a good thing? There we go, right? These are the areas that ClearStar serves today. Our technology is used by channel partners that white label our technology and representatives themselves. We provide them interfaces or connectivity to data sources that they would require to sell those services. Last year, through our channel partners, we screened in excess of 2 million people, mostly in the continental United States. But we did pull records globally, internationally. That means that we touched and pulled data elements of 6.5 million to screen over those 2 million people. Now, data is abundant. Data is not something that's discrete. It's not something that you put on the shelf. It's live. And that means you must maintain those data sources up to date regularly and continue to refine them. But data can also be translated. It can also be packaged. You can take discrete data sources, combine them, and create a new piece of data, draw new conclusions on an individual. And that's what ClearStar started to do through its channel partners several years ago. We said, let's not just provide them the technology, which was transactional, but also let's start to provide the data that they require to help employers make decisions. By controlling the complete process, we were not only able to provide new data sets, but able to present those data sets in a way that were more digestible to the employer, which created new value. Today we have 140 channel partners moving data through our network at an aggregate revenue of $80 million a year. So we're collecting for our channel partners $80 million a year. We do all the invoicing for our channel partners. We maintain the credit card interfaces for our channel partners, and a great deal of the revenue that comes through our channel partners are collected through our merchant account and processed by us. We have no inventory. We really have no overhead with the exception of development, and our net receivables are about net 10. In the last 2 years, we'd have $7,000 in bad debt. So it's a very sticky process. Now, the majority of our channel partners have used our technology to build solutions that we don't know about, because the way we're set up is very much, if you're familiar with Salesforce.com, we have a programming layer around our SaaS model. This is a transactional model. You hear the word sticky used a lot. What we do is we release this code and shared source code to either the employers or the channel partners, and they build their own experience. They build their own solution. Sometimes they build it in with other solutions. And what we do is maintain the security infrastructure. So there are 3,600 companies that say they do background screening in the United States. Less than 2% of them are certified. We're one of those 2% that are certified to move information in a secure fashion. After we started to do this for a period of time, we realized that there were some flat spots in this process. Things that the employers needed that couldn't be provided by data sources. There were manual processes. One of the largest areas was medical services, drug screening and occupational health. Is the individual under the influence of a controlled substance? Has the individual ever used the influence of a controlled substance? Can the individual pass a physical when he's required to? So we created a paperless chain of custody technology. We're the only ones in the industry doing this, supporting 5 major laboratories, 10,000 collection locations. And this paperless chain of custody appears on a mobile cell phone. So when I need to dispatch somebody for a collection or a test, it immediately appears on their cell phone. They go to the collection site, scan it in just like you would your ticket at the airport, and they go through the process. Now, this is really important from a compliance standpoint, because what you have is requirements for transportation professionals, industrial professionals to be rescreened on a regular basis. Six Flags was mentioned. We do all of the screening for Six Flags, which means on a regular basis, we send Six Flags notice that these people have been randomly selected to go be screened. And we do this all through recurring revenue technology, all transactional based. And really all we're providing is oversight. Did that individual go to that site, screen, meet the requirements of the employer, and we can certify it happened. And that meets their insurance requirements. So Six Flags has insurance that states nobody that operates a ride can be on drugs. Nobody that operates a ride can be a sexual offender. Nobody who operates a ride can be a violent felon. And we certify that. We use the medical services to fill the gap where the data can't perform the operation. Currently, medical services is our fastest growing division. We not only sell it through our channel partners, but we sell it direct. Approximately 46% of the revenue that's coming in from our medical services is coming in from competitors, which means they have taken this technology that we developed, and we call it portable technology, and they've incorporated into their websites, their hiring process. So when you're applying for a job, say through Raytheon, and you're filling out the form, you're actually filling out a piece of our website that's dispatching you to a drug screening program that's going to tell you when you need to go and where you need to go and a location closest to you. We're using this kind of portable technology to help employers make decisions on medical and, in some cases, because of the way this is programmed to the employers, in the whole employment process. The company was established in 1995. It was actually excuse me, a startup built by my partner and I. We built it in my basement, so it was completely funded by us. So doing it for 20 years, we've seen the growth of this industry and actually had to persevere the dot-com times if anybody had to go through that experience. So we were providing software during this process, and in 1999 transitioned to a true transactional model. We were actually a transactional SaaS model in 1999. Everything, all revenue that comes through our systems or services is reoccurring revenue. We've had a customer retention rate of 90% over the last 10 years. Once a customer builds to our technology, we become the customer. They become so ingrained in the process that the customer, it would be too expensive for them to leave. We floated the company in July of last year. And the reason we floated was the market in the United States for employers to do background screening is somewhere in the neighborhood of $2.5 billion. And my direct channel partners through the white labeling process this year only supported about $80 million worth of revenue, which means we're touching a very small piece of the market. And the reason we decided to go direct to the employers was we didn't feel that our channel partners were adequately providing solutions. In other words, going in, doing an assessment and saying, where are your flat spots? Where do you need this technology to touch not only your hiring process, but your life cycle process? Screening of an applicant used to be something that was done in a very reactive way. You fill out an application, I look at your resume, I make some phone calls. Very reactive. Over time, we started to see threats arise in the workplace, and employers started to become a little proactive. Can I check criminal records? Can I look at databases? And the way this initially started to work is you had police departments or ex-private investigators or attorneys who would do this for you. They would actually go and do the research. And eventually this evolved into a very locally retentive cottage industry. You know, an attorney who worked in the area says, I do all the background screening for everybody in this city. So you have these 3,600 companies pop up who have relationships with employers to do these background screening. But with the advent of some of the changes in the last 5 years, specifically the threats that have been going on, background screening has become interactive, meaning that once an employee is hired, they're screened for usually the life cycle of their employment. And this is a good thing because this actually allows the employee or the individual to represent themselves for what they are. You know, a lot of people look at this and say, well, you know about all these databases and you're doing all this, you know, cloak and dagger stuff to find out about people. Not true. The only thing that we do in this process is authentically represent the individual. The individual comes in, the individual makes certain statements. This is who I am, and this qualifies me for this job. We are a trusted third party. We take that information in the same way a doctor would take information, and we hold it sacred, and we do the background check on the individual. We come back to the individual if we find anything that may be disparaging. Well, it said you didn't go to that college, did you? And we give them an opportunity to respond. Or it said you had a criminal record here 2 years ago. Is that you? And we allow them to respond. We then verify the information, return the results to the applicant, report it to the employer. In some cases, there is information that comes back that has nothing to do with the employment contract, has nothing to do with the reason for employment, has nothing to do with the safe hiring program of the employer, and we redact that information, we pull it out. There's no need for the employer to know. As a matter of fact, it's a potential risk that he does know. And the applicant doesn't need to divulge that information. So we're that bridge that stands between the individual and the employer. The employer may be paying us, but we represent the applicant. So it's all about applicant empowerment. It's all about an individual controlling their own identity and representing themselves in an authentic manner. Recently, we've moved our technology here into the United Kingdom. We opened up a data center several months ago and installed servers in it. And this was all in reaction to the float. The announcement came out that we had floated in the United Kingdom. There was a consultancy here who was engaged in employment verification. They contacted us and wanted to know if we could help them evolve their technology. We signed a 5-year contract with them, which is a reoccurring revenue contract transactionally. Now the uptick is, in the United States, when we do a transaction, we charge about 38 cents a transaction. And it very much works like a cell phone. You commit to a minimum number of minutes. You don't make your minutes, you pay us. You go over your minutes, you pay us over your minutes. You want to buy data? Again, it's just like your iPhone. You're basically pushing an application through on the minutes, and we're charging you for use of the application. Very sticky. In the United Kingdom, we charge $1.82 a transaction, which is a big uptick, because there seems to be in this market a great disparity for technology that can deliver secure information. Our servers are certified, and we are audited every 6 months. We're audited from a security standpoint and a data safe standpoint. We had to go through security auditing and an additional requirement to put our servers here in the UK and meet the requirements of the consultancy that we're serving. The customer base that this group serves in the global market and the emerging direct market that we have just started to get into are very high-profile companies. Deutsche Bank, Raytheon, Federal Express. We do a lot of the drug screening for Federal Express, IBM, University of Miami, University of Louisville, drug programs, sexual offender programs. We're getting involved with companies who send people into other people's homes. So we have I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it. We support a website called Angie's List, which is kind of like tradesmen that are recommended to go into your home. Know your tradesman. Everyone who goes through Angie's List is certified through our platform. So if somebody goes to install a washer or a dryer, because they were recommended by Angie's List, they've been certified through our technology, through our data sources. We're doing Visiting Angels. This is a company that sends home nursing care into the elderly home. And we do pre-certification for Visiting Angels. And they go in with the certification issued by us, a trusted third party, to say, this person's not a felon, they're not a sexual offender, they hold this nursing license, they're current. We do ongoing screening. We do all of the school bus, am I using the right term? I was corrected for school bus drivers in the state of Missouri. So we screen continually for driving records and sexual offenders, all school bus drivers in the state of Missouri. Now that we've started to establish a global footprint, we're getting demands by US companies to start aggressively moving records from the United Kingdom to the US because we have a global employment situation. People move from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, country to country, and we want a much greater abstract of those individuals, and vice versa. We're seeing an environment where we're starting to move United States-based records to the UK. Now, here's the value proposition on technology. Every country has different rules and requirements. The United Kingdom does not want their information stored on a US-based server. We have something called the Patriot Act, which means our government can step in and take a look at that information. So the United Kingdom doesn't want it. So we've created this global server environment where we can store and keep the information in country to keep it under the auspices of the country. Now, there are other countries who don't have laws forbidding it, but are just a little paranoid about buying through our US-based servers, who will buy through our UK-based servers. And as we start to grow the company, we see an opportunity to place these global servers in not only country jurisdiction, but also employment jurisdiction. Because there's requirements by banking institutions that their data doesn't leave the bank. They want it to sit in the bank. No other company in our space is building servers, placing them out in this network the way we are to allow data to maintain in residence, maintain the security requirements of the hosting country or employer, but be able to interchange that data to make decisions. And the reason they're not is the majority of the companies who provide service to this space are very off the shelf. If you want to screen an individual, you're doing it our way. And you're going to buy the data the way we present it. That's not how ClearStar works. Remember, we've been a technology company for 20 years. The way we work is, how do you want the data? Where do you want the data? How do you want it to look? How should we change it? How should we present it to you? So we build the solution first, then use the data to fulfill the requirement. Quite dramatic. As far as the delivery mechanism, it's quite dramatic. Now remember, we talked about ClearStar being able to build these solutions. I'm going to jump to my next slide. Yep, real close. To build these solutions, 10 minutes? Okay. To build these solutions, here we are in 2013, building solutions through channel partners. We floated in July, here we are in 2014. No proceeds really added to this revenue stream. The proceeds that we gained started to build developers. We started hiring developers and started to retool for our global effort toward the end of this year. And that was all a spend. So this was organic growth. Prior to us floating in 2014, we had been listed for the past 7 years as one of the fastest growing companies in America on Inc. magazine. So we're pretty proud of that. And real quick, from a strategy standpoint, we're continuing to support those white label channel partners, increasing our sales and marketing there. We're expanding our medical information systems. That's all happening on handheld devices. The employment that Six Flags is doing, all happening on an iPad, signing an iPad, submitting the information, sometimes taking a picture of the employee, uploading documents, taking pictures and uploading documents on the employee. Direct to employers, we're starting to really focus on getting direct. We actually made an acquisition on December 15th. It was a company providing $3 million worth of employment screening directly to the market. It was a very accretive acquisition, 30% EBITDA. So we're capitalizing on that and be pulling that down into the financials next year. We've been actively marketing, and now we're building a global platform so we can serve different countries. Questions? It's fun, it's just difficult.
Question down
here. Can you tell me why you chose to list in the UK?
Well, it was interesting. It was strictly product. It was a product decision. Toward the end of 2013, 2014, we had raised the interest of some very large companies in our segment. And what they realized was we had a flexible solution they didn't. And they were having difficulty going beyond their current revenue and penetrating the market. So we started to get heavily pursued to be acquired. And not only did we have them looking at us, we had venture people looking at us. I talked to 13 different venture capital companies and really couldn't come to an accord as to why I would want to take this money to grow beyond it. Remember, the plan for us as a small company, 3 shareholders, never took money from the outside, had no debt, was internally funded, growth was funded out of profits. We were quite happy doing what we were doing. But it started to become self-evident to us that we were going to be pursued, and we started to get pursued by larger companies and these venture companies. So we started to explore. We said, well, maybe being behind the scenes isn't what we want to do. Maybe we can do this better up front. We got some financial consulting Actually, the gentleman who helped us with it came on as our CFO, Dave Patillo. He said, you need to look at the London market. It's got a great product. You're going to get a good valuation. You're going to have the opportunity to put money into growth. It's going to open you up to new experiences and new individuals who can help you do that. You need to do it. We came out here several times, and it was absolutely the right product for us. The original shareholders were able to keep good investment and control of the company, and we were able to get the funds so we could grow. So it was just his product.
Gentleman down here.
When you do a drug test on someone, do you then inform the employer, obviously, that was going to take them? But if the person then goes to another company, do you immediately say, don't touch them with the barge pole because they failed a drug test? Or is that specific to that applicant? He has control of it, and you will not inform another company unless he approves of it?
Correct. So if an employer does a drug test, each employer has their own tissue, right, for what they'll screen for. You know, remember, each employer sets their own safe hiring standards. So some may say, we don't really care if he's got that in the system, where others will say it's important. So the order has to come from the individual employer. If there is a positive, and that happens in less than 6% of the cases, we have a chief medical officer. The positive results go to the doctor. The doctor reviews them. It's then incumbent upon the doctor to call the applicant and question them. Do you have a prescription? Is there a reason? Have you done these things? If the doctor's satisfied and gets the prescription number, he passes the drug screen. If he doesn't, we're required to brief the applicant on the harms of drugs and where he can get treatment. Then we let the employer know he didn't pass the drug screen. We don't tell the employer what he didn't pass it for. He just didn't meet the requirements. So we're very careful about what we reveal to the employer, and you can only use the information once per event.
Roland's got a question.
I had a quick question. I think I'm right in saying you said the overall potential market was $2.5 billion in the US, and that the medical services side was your fastest growing area. How big do you see the medical services market in the US and over here in Europe?
Well, right now, we're just providing wholesale drug screening services in the US. I think we're doing about 5 million in that division, David. What, on run rate, 5 million, right? 4 million, thank you, 4 million in that. But what we're getting involved in is occupational health, which has a much bigger margin. So there's a requirement. And we do a lot of drug screening right now in Jordan. We screen all the contract armed security officers for steroids that go into Jordan under contract of Jordan. But occupational health is physicals. So I'm going to hire 20 firefighters, or I'm going to hire a whole bunch of people around the United States who are truck drivers, and the requirement is they have to lift 50 pounds over their head. Well, the trucking company can't do that. They need a trusted third party to say, I have the 10,000 locations who can do this. I can dispatch them. I can verify they've done it, and I can put it in a documented format and ensure that it meets insurance requirements, and I'll be the validation source. So we're starting to get into that occupational health, which has a much bigger uptick.
And further to that, you mentioned there trucking, you mentioned financial services. One can easily imagine the different sectors that the sort of services that you are involved in are within. But one that comes to mind is government, federal, local, state, national governments. Is it hard to get in to supply the government? Do you have any government contracts and anything you can leverage there?
Well, the government, we used to have a division of our government that did this, and they privatized it several years back. And it's one of the larger companies in the industry. Recently went through some very serious financial problems, $700 million lawsuit, and went bankrupt because these were the fine individuals who cleared Eric Snowden. This was a gentleman who never graduated high school, and they certified he did. He never graduated college or attended the university he went to. They certified he did. So if they had done their job, they would have known that Eric Snowden was a liar. So the challenges in dealing with the government right now are very restrictive. It's fast growth, high turnover, small companies that have many locations, restaurants, faith-based, churches. Churches screen a great deal, and there's a lot of churches and institutions, educational institutions, hospitals. Those are the growth markets.
And time for one last question.
I noticed in your announcement of your accounts, your results, you refer to one of your exceptional items of expenditure that reduced your rather nice profit to a loss of £247,000 for recruiting fees of a key new hire or hires. Is this a major recruiting drive, or is this just one person?
No,
And if it's a major recruiting drive, what are they doing?
Sales. We instigated a major recruiting drive and actually were able to attract 2 very senior salespeople from market leaders in the industry, also recruiting for developers. The contract we signed here, and the reason we got the contract in the UK, it was time sensitive. From start to finish, we had 4 months. They had already made commitments to a large customer and couldn't fulfill it. So for us to be able to ramp up to meet those requirements and get that 5-year contract, we had to recruit 5 developers very quickly. And as anybody who deals with developers, 25-year-old people making $100,000, $125,000 a year, to pull the best away from another company, you're paying a percentage of that salary to a recruiter to get them, sometimes at 30, 40%.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.